I think AI, as we understand it today, is fundamentally a technology that is derivative of centralized corporate power and control. It is built on the concentrated resources that accrued to a handful of large tech corporations, largely based in the US and China, via the surveillance advertising business model, which gave them powerful computational infrastructure and huge amounts of data, large markets from which to pull that data, and the ability to process and structure that data in ways useful for creating these technologies. So right now there are only a handful of companies with the resources needed to create these large-scale AI models and deploy them at scale. And we need to recognize that this is giving them inordinate power over our lives and institutions, and that we should really be concerned about, again, a handful of corporations driven by profit and shareholder returns making such socially consequential decisions.
And you were at Google. Was that one of your biggest concerns while you were there?
I was very concerned while I was there. I actually began labor organizing at Google after being frustrated that while it was clear everyone knew I was right, that myself and others who were making the case about the dangers, the fallibilities, the limitations of these technologies and of deploying them in socially consequential domains, no one was contesting what we were saying. But at the end of the day, profit and growth took precedence. And I realized that, and I realized, well, what tools do I have if this is not a contest of ideas? Well, traditionally, labor has been a very powerful tool to check capital. So we began organizing, we began, flexing those muscles, and we were able to push Google to cancel, at least temporarily, a contract with the Department of Defense to build machine vision capabilities for drone surveillance. So that was a core issue that I felt ethically I had to contest if I was going to continue making my money and name at Google, promoting safety, promoting ethics, researching the social consequences of AI.
With that, then, there is a lot of talk at the moment about the responsible development of AI, how that happens. In your view, do you have some ideas around how AI should be developed responsibly? Is it regulation? Is it some other form of framework that needs to be in place?
Well, I want to push a little bit on that framing, because already responsible development puts the agency, the ownership, and the power in the hands of the companies and engineers that are creating these technologies. And of course, they should bear core responsibility, but we can't look at a model or a system in a vacuum and determine whether it's responsible. Because AI is a tool that will largely be used by those who already have power, so our bosses, the police, the border patrol, whatever it is, on those who have less power. So we are not the users of AI, we are the subjects of AI. And I think we need to recognize this, particularly in light of the Writers Guild of America strike, in these sort of movements that are cropping up to contest the application of AI in harmful, surveillance, extractive ways that are threatening to undermine the livelihoods of millions of people. So I think we need to go beyond the development of AI between picking at the code of a model or trying to consult the crystal ball of a set of parameters to understand what this model does. And we need to look at who gets to use it, on whom, and what are they doing with it? What are the incentives that are driving their use? And if those incentives are to pay workers less, are to surveil workers more, are to surveil the public, are to shape people's opinions in ways that are manipulative, we should care less about how the model looks and more about checking that kind of extractive, exploitative, and harmful use.
And does that, in your view, come from legislation? Is that something that needs to be regulated?
Well, look, legislation is one lever that we have. Legislation is a very big word. Legislation can be appalling or it can be liberatory. We need to define the specifics of what we mean by legislation. So if legislation were to be proposed to put brakes on some of these areas. Some of the AI Act in Europe has some very good provisions. The banning of emotion recognition, which is a pseudoscientific type of use of AI technology that claims to be able to determine people's feelings and character and interior states by looking at their face, which is replicating race science and physiognomy. It's very embarrassing, right? But it's also very dangerous. So there are provisions already in a legislative form that would help here. I also think we need social movements. We need to make it easier for those in power to do the right thing than it is to listen to big tech lobbyists.
And Meredith, just recently there was a big summit in the UK, the UK AI Safety Summit. There were global leaders there. China was present as well, and I guess the view was to really try to have a conversation, get started on the risks AI poses and what to kind of do with that. The world wants to move towards a global consensus around the risks around AI and perhaps how to move forward in terms of rules, etc. But is that possible? There's a competition right now being played out in the tech sphere between the US, between China, other countries as well. Is it possible the world comes to some sort of global consensus?
Well, we cannot claim that a large number of big tech CEOs and a handful of world leaders and a scant number of civil society participants represent the world. We can't claim that a handful of global leaders represent the world. I think we need to be very precise in whose interests we are discussing when we talk about these consensus processes, because of course technical standards at some point will be developed, interoperability standards, there will be different thresholds, there will be export controls, there will be the frameworks put in place that protect governments and protect commerce and protect the confidentiality of information shared between powerful organizations and individuals. Power finds a way. But I think what we need to be more concerned around is that the illusion or the naming of those processes as a world consensus, as a global consensus, leaves out the fact that there are workers, there are people who will be subject to AI, there are those who will have to interact with these systems as part of getting benefits or interacting with government institutions, who should also have a say in this consensus. And that oftentimes the voices that are most necessary, those who bear the brunt of the errors and harms of these systems, who bear the brunt of the capabilities for social control and surveillance encoded in these systems, are not part of that consensus, have never consented to the application of these technologies, and have very little agency to push back on those harms and those misuses.
Hi, I'm Joanna Bersecci, and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more from CNBC International. Thank you for watching.